This is Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski, and we have with us today, as always, a wonderful guest speaking to us from New York. This is Bob Bernstein, and Bob is the former director of the Wheatley School out in Long Island, New York. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Daria. How are you doing?
I'm terrific.
Great.
Now, the Wheatley School, as I recall, a few years ago was ranked #1 in the United States by Newsweek magazine. Can you tell us a little bit of background about the Wheatley School? Is a public school, is that correct?
Yes, it is a public school. It's a small public school on Long Island. We're about 20 miles out of New York City, and we have grades 8 through 12 and approximately 600 students in those 5 grades. So it is small in size in that sense.
600 students is small?
600 where you have in grades 8 through 12.
Oh, I see.
So we're talking about 125 kids in a grade.
Okay.
And so Wheatley is the Wheatley School is definitely a public high school, even though many people, when you hear the name Wheatley School, it's like sounds private. But it is public, and it's part of the East Williston School District. And that district is really, we're talking about kids that come from maybe 5 local areas, 5 small areas that make up the school.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the population?
Yeah, let me tell you about that. I want to stress right from the beginning, the Wheatley School area it's a school that really stresses academic excellence, and I guess that's one of the things that hit it in Newsweek. Newsweek had run this article of like 100 high schools that work, and Wheatley was named #1 in the country. But that was based a lot on AP, advanced
AP
classes, advanced placement, meaning too that it's a very traditional high school geared to academic excellence. About 95% of the kids do go on to college. So we're talking about a population that's extremely the expectation is there for college, and the school actually is driven by the AP courses in the sense that we have for the 300 students in the high school, the senior high school, we offer 17 different AP courses, and the reason that they had done so well in the Newsweek article is because such a high percentage receive 3 or more. You're familiar with the scoring on AP where it's 1 to 5?
I think you need to explain it to our listening audience because I don't think most people do. Tell them what AP stands for and what it means.
AP is advanced placement, and it means that if a student takes a course which is labeled an AP course in high school, such as calculus, then if he gets a 3 or better out of a curve of 1 to 5, if he receives a 3 or better, he or she then does not have to take that course in college and actually get college credit for it. So you can have students entering college in their second year. And so we have a number of students that do that, will actually bypass the freshman year of college because they've gained so many credits by taking and doing so well on AP scores. So that's a setting. That gives you an idea that the school is really it's traditional, as I said, in that sense, because it's a very traditional program. The courses that we offer are very academic courses, and the expectation is there that the kids are going to do well. Of course, the expectations come from the parents, where you have the community itself. It is a very affluent community, and we have many people who are doctors and lawyers and professionals, so and who are college graduates themselves, and that is definitely a factor in the success of the school. The parents expect the kids to do well, and that's just carried through the staff and through the students themselves.
Now, they also, so you're talking about an affluent community that really does not have a lot of poor people.
No, we do. That's accurate.
And handicapped.
Well, we have a number of students who are in special education. Is that what you mean by handicap?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a very large special education program, and that's where the affluence comes in terms that the district will support it. We recognize kids, from an early age who have special education needs and cater to those needs, so that it's a significant part of the student population is actually in special education, and but that is the benefit of having the money in the district. It's interesting in terms of the district. Unlike probably any district that you have there, we have no stores in the community. It's strictly residents, so that all the money for the school comes from the taxpayers, from the people who live in the district. And people who live in the district, they move into the district because of the schools, and then they're willing to support the budget. As a matter of fact, the budget has never been defeated in the district, and this year, the budget, they not only passed the budget, but they actually passed a $20 million bond issue to enhance the school, to bring it up to date in terms of technology. So the community definitely supports the schools. That's a major factor.
All right. Now let's talk about the size of the school and the teacher-pupil ratio, what that means to the school, etc. How is the size as an advantage or a disadvantage?
Okay. Well, maybe I could do both. In terms of the size is a major advantage. The advantage is that kids just don't fall through the cracks. The administration, the school, they know everybody in the school, so that when you're dealing with such a small place, it really makes a difference. In fact, I was just reading an article in it was the May 10th issue of Education Week, and they were talking about this school in Georgia, Creekland Middle School, and it has 3,100 students, possibly the largest middle school in the United States, if not the world. And what they're doing is trying to do, in a sense, what Wheatley has done, is like break it down into small little groups, small little islands, so that the kids also don't get lost. And, studies just keep showing that size makes a big difference, and that even if you do have large schools in Pennsylvania, you can still break it down into smaller groups so that students feel that they have a role in the school. Students are part of it, and they don't get lost. No one is anonymous, and that really makes a huge difference in terms of a feeling about the place. In other words, where kids feel good about being in school. We're able to, in reference to student-teacher ratio, it's definitely less than 1 to 15, and that of course would include special education, which would lower it because the special ed groups are smaller. But the average, say the average social studies and average English class, is a little over 20 in a class, and the district spends a lot of money per pupil. I think they spend about over $13,000 per pupil, and they are willing to spend it because the results are there. So it's one of those catch-22s where you're doing well, and then the expectation is to continue well, and then in order to do that, you have to support it, and then the parents come in and support it. And there is a very close teacher-parent relationship. I think that's another important factor too, is a good deal of collaboration with the just stop me if I keep running on here.
Oh, that's okay. You're doing a great job. I have questions. I'll jot them down, and when you're finished talking, I'll just ask them to you as they go along.
Okay. One disadvantage would be like for athletic programs, because the kids are all overextended. One problem in reference to that is getting into college. Because the North Shore of Long Island, where the Wheatley School is located, it's a very progressive area, and you have some very fine high schools here on the North Shore, and these kids compete, at the top schools. And in order to get into the top schools, you have to be on a number of either athletic teams or certainly extracurricular activities or community service. So the kids, because it is small, the kids are on about everything you can think of. The editor of the school is also the captain of this team or that team, and we have an awful lot of small teams. The nice thing for a student is that basically you don't get cut from any squad, because they need every single body. They offer. We don't have football. We just didn't have enough bodies for football. It was funny, but we do have in almost every sport. It's boys and girls, whether it be tennis, boys and girls tennis teams, boys and girls lacrosse teams, even field hockey. They have a lot of different sports, and about 80% of the kids participate in the athletic program at the school. And it's nice for the kid to know that he can go out for a team and make a team. The disadvantage is that you're not going to have necessarily great teams. You can't compete with the big schools. But on Long Island, they do have a number of different sections which are divided up by size of the school. And Wheatley is probably about the smallest public high school in Nassau County, and Nassau is the county that we live in out here, and so it is a little difficult. And sometimes the parents want these quote winning teams, but the kids all participate. They do well, and they're able to go on to college, and many of them actually will play in college. Not many. I should say not many, but they do get a chance to participate. Let me see. You asked. I told you about the teacher-pupil ratio.
Right. That's what I was asking about. And the disadvantages and the advantages of size was the original question that I asked you.
Yeah. It's mostly a plus. It really is a plus in terms of the fact that the district supports the students. As going back to that money issue, a lot of money is spent by the districts, and this is also true of almost every high school in the area right here on Long Island. Long Island is really does they do value education, and parents know throughout all of Nassau County that there are 56 high schools in Nassau County, by the way, just to give you an idea. They know it's going to cost money, and in the recent budget issues across Long Island, maybe it's about 120 districts, 18 of them failed, and so you had 102 that passed.
Passed what?
Passed the budget. The budget was one of the things that New York State has done is that the budget, when you vote for the budget in a particular district, it's all done on the same day. So therefore, it makes it easier to collate all the scores and see who's passed the budget and who hasn't and why. But this year, actually 18 going down out of 120 was more than it usually does.
All right. You are listening to Children Come First. This is Dr. Daria Brzezinski. We are here today with Bob Bernstein, former director of the Wheatley principal, I guess it is.
Well, I was the administrator.
Well, yeah, I know you had a different term for it, of the Wheatley School.
Well, the Wheatley. I was really the lead teacher and the administrator of the Wheatley School within a school, which we'll come to a little later, maybe.
And that's in Long Island. Bob, can you give us a phone number for the Wheatley School?
Area code 516-876-4700.
And if you'd like to reach us at any time, we are toll-free, 877-PRO-KIDS. That's 877-PROKIDS. Or you can reach us email, PROKIDS@RLC.net. That's PROKIDS@RLC.net. Now, Bob, let's get back to this.
Okay, I can give you a website, too.
Oh, go ahead.
Wilson. It's just simply go to EWSD. SD, East Williston School District.
Wait, EW?
W, Williston.
SD dot...
Yeah.
Dot what? Com?
That's the website, HTTP, then / go to EWSD.
Dot what?
I guess .com.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I've never used it.
All right.
I know we have it.
Now, let's talk a little bit. I mean, everything about your school is so idealistic. 1 to 15 size in the classroom. They spend $13,000 per pupil. I mean, we are talking about an extraordinary school district. So what you're telling me is, and what our listening audience may be hearing, is that what you're telling us is that the number of money spent on the school district equals the greater the potential for having better students. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I mean, the money helps. There's no question the fact that it is an affluent district, and that...
That's what makes you get number one, is to have $13,000 per pupil spent?
No, I think it comes down to... the staff and the students and the community. And let me talk to you about the staff then. Maybe that might be helpful. We have an excellent staff, and part of it, of course, is the fact that we get paid good salaries, and but just as an example, this year we had an opening in the elementary school for an elementary school teacher. Well, they stopped counting applications after 2,000 were received.
Wow.
And now it's just people want to be in this school, and we find that because of that, we're able to have that balance between experienced teachers and newer and younger teachers. So, can I talk about maybe the hiring process? Maybe that would be helpful.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to relate it to your point about, it's not just a matter of money, but, money certainly helps. But it's a matter of getting an attitude of people working hard and people working together. When we hire new teachers, they invariably will talk about the fact that they've never worked so hard as when they've come to the Wheatley School or the East Williston School District, just because the demands are there. Parents just expect kids to have a lot of homework. There's just a lot of work, and you want to do a good job, and you're expected to do a good job. But I think it begins with the hiring, and one of the things that happens, I'll just tell you from my department. I was the social studies teacher, and when we have 10 teachers in the social studies department. Now, everyone makes a commitment to hire only the best people. And what that commitment really means is when we we have an opening, so maybe we'll get about maybe 120 applications. Every single person in our department, we number each application. Every single person in the department will read every resume that comes in, and then we will write down the people that we think should be interviewed. So maybe you might have 10 or 15 numbers on your list. We submit it. The chairman of the department, chairperson, then goes over and coordinates that list, and perhaps we get 10 people to interview. So each person will be called in, and it will be about a 20-minute interview. But every person in the department has made the commitment to stay after school. One is to read the resumes, and two is stay after school to interview all these people. So that's very important, and is also quite unusual. Then the next part of it, generally, the chairperson and myself, we will go out to the school and interview, observe that teacher in action in a classroom. We'll bring it down to about 5, maybe 3 to 5 teachers that we want to observe, and we'll go into the school and we'll observe the teacher, and then we will spend time talking to other teachers in the school about the person. We'll stay in the classroom and we'll talk to students who have had this teacher. What this person's really like. Was the lesson really, a typical lesson for this teacher, or was it, some supercharged lesson? And, it is funny how you go into a classroom and here the teacher picks the class they're going to have you observe, picks the kind of lesson you're going to have, and still some of them just don't do a good job. I guess you've seen that yourself, and you've seen the resumes when people turn in these resumes. But we even had a case. I mean, this was very unusual, but we had a particularly great teacher where the English department chairman flew out to Oklahoma to observe this teacher. That is unusual. Most of our teachers do come from Long Island and from the New York City schools. But that is the process, and I think and that makes a difference because people are willing to put in that time and effort, and I think that's one of the reasons that makes it a better school. Does that make sense to you?
It certainly does. So what you're saying is that in the process of hiring their own faculty, everyone has the opportunity to have input on how all the major players are having input on how and who is being hired, whether they get along with each other, whether they have the expertise and the skills. So it is a community effort much more than it is typically in schools. It's administrative effort.
Absolutely.
So that has a huge significance.
Yeah. So generally when we agree on one or two candidates, we just like to send the administrator one name and say, this is what the department, this is the person that we feel should get the position. And, because there's been so much success in hiring, so the principal or the administrator agrees.
Which is where it should be. Can I ask what the starting salary is of a teacher in your school district?
Yes, a starting salary for a teacher with a bachelor's is $40,000, and a teacher with a master's is $47,000.
Okay.
And goes up to after 25 years, goes up to about $90,000.
That is quite significant, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, and that's going to be another reason why you can attract good people. When you have 2,000 applications, a lot of people want to work in that district. Now we are not the top paying district on Long Island, but we are certainly one of the top we're the top in some areas, and it is a good paying district.
Now, does your school follow standards and have a teachers union and all of the other kinds of issues that school districts around the country have to deal with?
Yes. Well, we definitely have a very strong teachers union, and the union does negotiate the salary package. Generally, our contracts are for 3 years, and in reference to academic standards, we of course follow the New York State academic standards, which are the regions which are offered in high schools for all the subjects, and then there's a great deal of testing done in the 4th grade and in the 5th grade and 8th grade, statewide testing, and our kids definitely come out, in the very top, right from the beginning.
So would you
I think that's from the parents.
I was going to say, would you assume that the input and the impetus for... Do you consider your students to feel pressured because of the majority of the parents are highly educated people and do pressure their children to go on to college? Do you consider that your students are feeling the pressure? Do they look pressured, or does the small school atmosphere relieve that pressure kind of situation? And can you dispel any of the problems that might erupt under pressure situations because you are a small school?
All of the above, Daria. You hit everything right there. They do feel the pressure. There is no question that there is academic pressure put on the kids from the home. It's also put on them from their friends, in school, who are all striving to do well and very competitive, and their friends in the other local high schools, because it's very closely knit, and they know each other, and these kids, they compete against each other athletically. Probably a major team at our school is the mock trial team. It's not there's no tackling involved, but it's an academic team. It's a law team, and law is extremely big in Nassau County, and there are about 30 high schools that have actually mock trial teams that compete, and so that's how these kids get to know each other. And as far as letting off steam, as I think you put it, because the guidance department is really great at that, and we have school has a part-time social worker, has a psychologist, and they're able to try to offer a number of activities that they can just be kids and not feel that kind of pressure. But teachers are very much aware of the pressure that is put on students by parents, and what the school tries to do is offer a number of different kind of workshops during the course of a year, where they'll bring in different experts to talk to parents about letting go a little bit, and trying to help the parents raise teenagers through these difficult years. So people are aware of it, and people are always trying to be helpful. But yes, as you put it, there is definitely pressure on the student. That is a disadvantage because everybody knows how everybody else is doing. You're in the class with them. That's another leads me to another interesting thing, I think, is that...
Well, can you do me a favor and write that down, because we have to take a station break.
Okay, sure.
Write it down. Make a note of it.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, good. Let's do that.
You are listening to Children Come First. This is Dr. Daria Brzezinski. You may reach us anytime toll-free at 877-PRO-KIDS. That's 877-PROKIDS. Email prokids@rlc.net. That's prokids@rlc.net. or the website www.rlc.net/prokids. That's rlc.net/prokids, or you can call Bob. We're with Bob Bernstein here from the Wheatley School in Long Island. The Wheatley School is 516-876-4700, 516-876-4700, or visit the website www.gotoewsd.com. That's gotoewsd.com. And please join us. We'll be talking in our second half hour because we have in the Wheatley School, we have a school within a school. And that's going to be our next subject, and how to deal with when you have problems in a school and size is not manageable or issues are not manageable. What can you do to create something that is manageable? Now, generally in business, we downsize. Formerly in education, we upsize and make the schools larger and larger, but Wheatley has done something unique with a problem in their school that we'd like to talk about in our second half hour. So please join Bob Bernstein and I, Bob from the Wheatley School in New York, on second half hour. And this is Dr. Daria Brzezinski, and we are here today with Bob Bernstein from the Wheatley School in Long Island, New York. And you were about to say something before I cut you off for our break, Bob. You want to go back to whatever it was that...
Yeah, then I could bring it into the school within a school, SWS. I think we could tie it in. But in reference to the question you were asking me about the pressures on the kids, one other advantage and disadvantage that the kids have here is that they basically all know each other. They have been going to school together since kindergarten. So the problem with that is because it is so small, and they do know each other. Like if you say something about a kid, within 2 minutes, it's all over the school. So you have to be very careful if a kid even does anything in terms of dating or whatever. Their reputations get known very quickly. So kids are. That is a little bit of a disadvantage. I mean, you find that there are many students, one of the favorite schools that kids love to go to college from Wheatley is University of Michigan or the University of Wisconsin, something with about 30,000 students in the undergraduate level. And they choose for that hugeness. But we had some problems early in the 50s, and I didn't talk about the religious makeup of the district, which is kind of interesting too, because it's about 40% Jewish and about 40% Catholic, predominantly Catholic in that sense, Christian, but mostly of that 40%, I would say Catholic, a very small Protestant population. And then 20% would be the other would be Asian, and we have some Iranian students, and the general I guess the term is just other. But that was the population, and back in the 50s, what would happen is that the kids who lived in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood were going to one school for elementary school, and the kids in the Catholic neighborhood were going to that predominantly. The predominantly Catholic kids were going to a public school in the school district, but they were all from the same religion. And and then they found when they went into the middle school in the high school, it led to problems, religious problems and biases and that type of thing. So they came up with an idea where they created a K-4 school where everyone in the district would go to the one K-4 school, and then everyone in the district would go next to the middle school, which was 5 through 7. And then they all went to Wheatley. So that way, you were able to deal with religious intolerance and any problems. You started to be able to deal with it at a very early age, and there were a lot of discussions on that. And when they came into the high school back in the early 70s, there still was this religious diversity. There still were problems, and tried to create a program, and we did, and it was called School Within a School. And it's gone through many different phases, but the amazing thing about this SWS, Daria, is that it's now in its 28th year, which that's very unusual for any kind of an alternative school program. And, you always have a lot of questions. How come in a very small school, what do you need an even smaller school for? Because the population of SWS is 75 students. That's what we've been at the last 10 years. We keep it by our own laws that we made it at 75, and that's so. It's kids who are in grades 10, 11, and 12, and you have 25 kids per grade are in that program, and kids choose to come in. There's actually a lottery to come in, and as I said earlier, we have say maybe 100, 125 kids in each grade. Well, of that 125, perhaps when they choose to come in the ninth grade, maybe 50 or 60 will apply to come in, and we just pull the names out of a hat and take the first 25.
So you do a lottery.
Do a lottery, and so therefore you can have the brightest kid in the school or one of the weakest kids in the school. Now, you might ask, why would a weak student want to be in this program? And because this program is even more academic than the regular academic high school. There's much more work involved, but students come into it for a variety of reasons, and I think the most important is that they really see where they can take on more responsibility for their own education. It's definitely, it's really a student-run program.
Now listen,
yes.
You started this School Within a School because of the religious diversity.
Because religious problems. They were trying to figure out how we could get kids to communicate more effectively together, how we could get parents to...
So what you're telling me is that you put the students, if I have this correctly,
okay.
You put the students in this school who were having difficulty getting along with regard to religious affiliation? Am I wrong in that, or did I miss something?
Yeah, no, it's not quite. There were problems in the school district with the different religious groups, and so
I got that part.
Okay, and then so that problem was partially solved by them getting them into go to the same schools together.
I see. Okay,
that worked out really well, but
you created this small group so that they could learn how to communicate with each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And then that moved on to becoming so successful after 28 years that you're holding a lottery now for all students to get into it?
And any student to come into the SWS program, there is a lottery, and the students make a decision to come in the ninth grade.
All right, so now what is the core focus of School Within a School?
Oh, it's still, it makes up one-third of the student's day in the regular school. The core of it is an they take their regular English course in SWS, and they take a social science course in SWS. They still take their regular social studies in the regular school. I hope that's not too confusing.
No.
And a major difference from SWS and the regular school is the other core part of the program, and that's human relations, community building. So that if you can think of that, we are in a 9-period day. The regular school's in a 9-period day. It's, as I said, it's very traditional, but 1/3 of that day, the last 3 periods of the day, our students are in SWS. And those students who are in SWS really take control of the whole program. And by that I mean we have students who teach courses in SWS. We have a student Supreme Court, which handles any kind of problem that comes up within the program. But and you have the students elect a moderator, who is a student runs the classes. It's a little confusing, but the school runs 4 days a week, and on the fifth day is this community building day. And so remember, we're talking about 1/3 of the school day. So now on our fifth day, which is in the middle of the week, we have a community building meeting. Then we have what we call family groups, and then we have committees. So there's no academics that particular day. But the community building is the essence of the program, where the students run the program. And what happens in the community building is that proposals are taken up. Like sometimes they'll have a proposal, these courses shouldn't have grades.
So this is like an all-school meeting.
Yeah, it's an all community meeting. There are about 5 teachers in the program. Every teacher who teaches in the program teaches full-time in the regular school as well, and they teach in the SWS.
So now these are not just at-risk students anymore. These are all the various kinds of populations.
Right.
So why is it still going on, even though the at-risk students are no longer? What is the benefit of it?
The benefit is that the reason that the program exists and keeps doing so well is that because the kids feel so important in their program. And this is when you come back to like what would be helpful in Pennsylvania or in any school system, is creating a place where a student feels that his or her voice is important. And in SWS, that voice is important. The student has a direct role in how this program is run. And it's not that the teachers just sit back, but they really, the teachers are trained in, we're trying to push for student leadership. I mean, the teachers who are in there, we're all leaders. We're all, they're good teachers. They volunteer. It's more work than teaching in the regular school because there are so many more papers to mark and so much more, and these kids know that they have to work harder. This is explained right from the beginning.
But they only have to work in English and social science.
Well, it's not just only. I mean, that's.
No, but I meant in the Wheatley School is only just English and social science.
In SWS.
Yeah.
But then they're taking their math and science and everything else in the Wheatley School in the other 6 periods of the day.
So does that become a part of, does the rest of the school then become a part, the rest of the Wheatley School become a part of this conversation, or is only the part where they are in SWS?
Only the part in SWS.
Ah.
So
it doesn't sound...
when we have a community meeting, it's just the 75 students who are in SWS. And one of the things that makes kids feel better, too, is having what we call these family groups. A family group consists of maybe two 10th graders, two 11th graders, and two 12th graders, and a teacher, that type of thing, or maybe three 12th graders, and all the classes are integrated. So when you're teaching an English course, you will have in that English class, you'll have 10th, 11th, and 12th graders sitting in the same classroom, so that once they start, you're discussing a book, you're having a really good discussion, then the students are picking up, like a 10th grader is listening to the views of a 12th grader, and that makes a big difference. Personal participation in classes is key. Let me explain before I lose you totally. I don't want to.
You haven't lost me totally. Let me remind our audience, though, they are listening to Children Come First. This is Dr. Daria Brzezinski. We're here today with Bob Bernstein of the Wheatley School in Long Island, New York. And the Wheatley School was ranked number 1 out of 100 schools in the United States by Newsweek magazine. And we're trying to find out what it is that makes the Wheatley School so significant and far beyond all the other schools in the United States. And we're not talking about a flare-off of the Wheatley School within the school, which is called a school within a school. And Bob was telling us that this began out of religious concerns and diversity in the community, and has now become a functioning part after 25 years of the school, where students, they are able to take, it's a third of their school day, where they're able to take English and social science and have all school meetings on Friday to determine the direction of the school, where the students have governmental functions in terms of running the school, and where they have family groups where they get together and talk about, I'm assuming the family group is like other family groups where they talk about specific issues in terms of things that might be bothering them, etc.
Absolutely. You have it.
And if you'd like to call the Wheatley School, you can call them at area code 516-876-4700. That's 516-876-4700, or you can reach them on the website at www.gotoewsd.com. That's go to EWSD.
Okay.
What does E stand for? I've forgotten. East Williston.
East Williston.
East Williston. Okay,
Right.
school district. That's right.
East Williston School District.
Or you can reach us here at toll free at 877-PRO-KIDS. That's 877-PRO-KIDS. Or email us PROKIDS, PROKIDS, at rlc.net. That's PROKIDS at rlc.net. Or our website, www.rlc.net/ProKids. That's www.rlc.net/ProKids. Now, Bob, you were telling us about the Wheatley School?
Well, yeah, I was telling you about SWS. Where it's a little different is from any other school, why it keeps functioning and why it has gone on for 28 years is because of the role that students are able to play in it. And academically, it's different from any school in reference that academically the year is broken down into 4 quarters. But a class will meet just twice a week, and they'll meet for 12 times. And the class, like an English class, would maybe, a typical thing might be, say, discussing Nathaniel Hawthorne's short stories, say, in English. And over that 12 times that the class meets, they probably will have written 10 different papers, no tests, but it will be, generally there's a paper due for every single time the class meets. So a class will meet on a Monday, Thursday, or a Tuesday, Friday schedule, and Wednesday is our what we call our community day. And so it allows students some time. Now, they are expected to take, in that their 3-period day, they're expected to take actually 4 classes per quarter. So you'll have 2 social science classes that they're taking and 2 English classes that they're taking. And every class, in order to be offered, has to be approved by an academic committee. Now, an academic committee is a group of students who meet and will be discussing the courses that are offered, and they talk about the grades, and they generally make all the major decisions on what's going to be offered, what they need. And a teacher is on each committee. Then when a student takes a course, he or she will, after they finish the course, the student will write an evaluation of themselves for that course, and they give themselves a grade. They submit that evaluation to the teacher. Now, the teacher will then give the student a grade, and the grades are based on quality, effort, and the kind of work that they've done during that 6-week period. And the teacher does not necessarily, of course, have to agree with the student in reference to the grade. But whatever the grade the teacher gives, that's the final grade for that class. Now, at the end of a semester, by then a student will have taken, say, maybe 12 courses in all in one semester. And then the student will write up what he or she calls their transcript. They'll list every class that they've taken. They'll give all the grades that they've received, and they write up something about what they got out of the classes and that type of thing. It's an evaluation. Now, if there's a transcript committee is formed, which is composed of students and teachers, and they read every student's transcript. In other words, for social science, there's a committee, and for English, there's a committee. And if the committee feels like if the student gives themselves an A, and the teachers and the students who are on the committee feel that that student should only get a B, then that's a conflict. So the student is called in at the end of the semester to resolve the conflict. And the committee then tells the student why they disagree with that particular student. In some cases, actually, the committee feels the student should get a higher grade than what they gave themselves. That doesn't happen that often. But if the conflict cannot be resolved between the teacher and that committee and the student, then the student can bring it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court consists of 7 students, 2 10th graders, 2 11th graders, 2 seniors, and 1 at-large candidate. And all these people are elected by the community. That's one of the things that takes place in a community meeting. People run for office, and they give their speeches of why they should be elected, and so then it's brought to the Supreme Court.
Now, do the Supreme Court also have attorneys and things of that nature?
The student can bring another student in to act as an attorney for him or her, and there are no attorneys on the side of the Supreme Court because there are 7 students who can ask. They can ask the questions. And
is there a jury?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just that's.
Just for my own curiosity.
Yeah, no, their decision is binding. Now, if, and this is very rare, if a student still feels that he can't get justice from the Supreme Court, he or she has the opportunity to go to the principal of the school who has the final say. But generally, the principal has never overturned the Supreme Court, because it's 7 students and they know what's happening in every classroom anyway. They have a very good idea because these kids, they're all taking the same, a lot of the same classes. So That's the nature of it. So you can see how a student can really feel good about themselves in terms of even being on the court, or even having the confidence to take a transcript committee to court. It just, it builds up confidence, and that's what we're trying to do, is trying to make kids feel better about themselves. So they are really participating. Students can also teach courses. If you want to offer a course to be taught, you first have to take the one required course. You have to take a course that I used to teach called How to Teach in SWS. And that's and then part of that teaching course would be just like a regular student teacher, where you had to go in and observe other teachers and write up lessons, and then you submit lesson plans, that type of thing. So your school is a replica. The school within a school model is a replica of many of the schools we have across the country, who might be considered democratic schools, where students are given opportunities for socialization, democratic principles, for managing themselves and governing themselves. Yes.
And in essence, what we are saying is that these are not student councils we are talking about. These are whole school opportunities for students to come together, to understand each other, to govern each other in situations that are reflected in school life, but that build skills that will accompany them throughout life for the kinds of principles that we have in a democratic society in our culture today.
Beautifully said.
So,
would you like to come to our school and write that out?
I don't know if I could remember it.
That was nice. That's absolutely accurate. Kids come back to the school year in and year out, and just talk about what SWS has meant to them and how they've been able to grow. It's incredible, because all the things that you just mentioned, is that opportunity is there for growth, and the chance to make mistakes, the chance to learn, the chance to observe others, and really feel that you're important. And particularly those family groups, they play a major role. This past weekend, I was invited to a wedding. One of my students called me from California. She graduated in 1984, and she's now a psychologist and got married here in New York City. And we went to the wedding, and there were a number of kids from SWS who were at the wedding, and and it was just so exciting to hear these kids just talk about something that happened in their lives 16 years ago, and what it meant to them. It is phenomenal.
What you're saying is that it seems to me that the traditional schools that we have set up for our children lack meaning, lack the importance in having the student participate as an entity that is part of the learning process. And what we are doing is we have far removed the students from the learning process by constantly telling them what needs to be learned and how it needs to be learned. And when in fact we allow them to participate in the learning process, we give them that chance in having it integrate, and it obviously sounds like the most important part of their life, when we need to be doing this day in and day out instead of just giving it to them piecemeal in a third part of the day.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said, except I wouldn't generalize to say that that all of school lacks meaning. Schools, it's still important, and I know you're not saying that it's not important, but this just goes that one step further, again, as you put it, to be able to allow the student just to express themselves in a smaller environment. I mean, just think when you're in a community meeting and now it's 75 students, and people, you have a proposal on the board.